Because Eric watched something with me, and why don't we start with the thing that you watched with me, Eric? So, movie that both of us have meant to watch for a million years. Really nice of...
Well, like 3.
It feels like a million years.
Comes out the same year.
It really does. Right, but then I hear people like Rasco talk about it so much, and it just feels like a million years ago.
That's true.
But yeah, so 2014, Whiplash. It was a long time before I even realized that that movie was about a guy playing the drums, and I was like, oh, that seems like a thing I should rather watch.
I always confused it with there's a movie that came out a couple years earlier called Whip It, which is a roller derby movie. Totally and people kept telling me how amazing Whiplash was. I was like, really? The Ellen Page roller derby movie?
Why
that got nominated for an Oscar? No, it's not that movie.
It's too bad that Ellen Page isn't in this movie, because she could use that kind of thing for her career.
Well, she was busy doing Flatline.
Right. That's what I thought you were going to say. So thanks to Guidi for requesting this for us, because honestly we were remiss in not getting around to this, and we finally have. So Whiplash is a horse of a different color. This is kind of movie that you just don't see a lot of, and I like totally deserving of all of its accolades.
Absolutely, and, it's a brilliant
all of the wonderful things people have said about it. I don't think you could tout this up too much.
I don't think so either.
I don't think you can overestimate the greatness of this movie.
And there's a number of points where I think I know where it's going and it doesn't go there.
Yeah, same here.
Early on, I was like, okay, so this is going to be like...
Mostly in redemptive arcs that never happen.
Yeah. Early on, I thought this was going to be like a Dead Poet Society. Like, that's kind of the vibe I was getting. I was like, oh, this is going to be like a Dead Poet Society thing. And it wasn't. And then I was like, okay, well, it's going to be like Search for Bobby Fischer, where like he's going to have to learn he has to balance like his art with his life. And it doesn't. This is a film... that the philosophy
I thought it might be another Rocky kind of thing.
Yeah.
You know, where there's like maybe dueling drummers or something, and he finds that there's always somebody better than you are, and he doesn't go there either.
No, the philosophy of this film seems to be everything is worth sacrificing for legitimate artistic greatness.
Yeah, but and I was going to get to this later, but what's really interesting about it is I don't think it's ultimately important. I don't know if I'm right about this. I don't know if it's ultimately important what the film is saying so much as allowing these characters' philosophies to shine through.
Yeah, yeah.
If that makes sense.
No, I agree.
It's just telling a story.
Now, having done a cursory bit of research about this film and the director, this director must believe everything that he wrote.
Oh, really? Interesting.
So this movie they shot in 19 days. In the final week, the director is in a car crash and is told that like he shouldn't return to set for like a week or two. Like he should recover. And he shows up to set on the next day.
He does exactly what the kid in this does.
Yep.
That's insane.
Yep. And he finishes the movie.
Wow.
Yeah. So no, clearly the director, who is also the writer...
So he believes in determination against anything, and it makes you wonder what kind of a director he is.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder how he treats his actors on set and stuff.
Yeah.
Because the basic idea behind the mentor in this film, one of the best performances I've ever seen in anything.
I've seen J.K. Simmons in a lot of stuff. I like J.K. Simmons in a lot of stuff. I've never seen him do anything like this. It's amazing. He's just so good. And like you can't overstate how good he is in this movie.
No, and impressive that we're able to keep both of these characters as sympathetic as we do, even if you may not condone everything they do. And I think this is one of those movies where some people are going to agree with these ideas more than others. You know what I mean? Like there's...
You do not have to agree with this film to enjoy this.
No, but there are wonderful debates to be had about it.
Yeah.
And just how far he goes in his philosophy of negative reinforcement. And it was weirdly... Because, I mean, like, I wouldn't act like this guy, but I get where he's coming from, and there's at least a grain of truth to everything he's saying.
There is an argument that I don't think gets made to him that I really wanted to.
What's that?
Because he kept bringing up the story about, like, he threw a symbol at that guy, and a year later he came back as the greatest person of all time. And I really wanted somebody to be like, yeah, he did that once! He didn't keep throwing things at him!
That's a sort of like a point. But yeah, he has this philosophy that positive reinforcement is bad because you stagnate potential greatness by saying you're good enough.
The two worst words in the English language are "good job."
Or good job. Yeah, you can't. This movie is the opposite of Hitchcock. Hancock. I always do that.
Yeah.
Of Hancock. Remember that?
Yeah.
Where he's told to say "good job." This is. This is all about the idea that you are great, that you can only achieve greatness if you fight against all odds, but also don't ever let like anything get in your way at all whatsoever.
Mm-hmm. It's also got the same kind of
if you have the potential to be great, you will never be discouraged.
It's got the same kind of like rage against mediocrity that Incredibles has, but where Incredibles
I was gonna bring that up.
Views it as like a problem. We're like this is a thing in society that like has really taken over and gone too far.
And it's really critical of public education.
Yeah. J.K. Simmons like fundamentally believes you should never encourage people because they
on a personal level, individually.
Yeah, you should only let them because you're once someone thinks they've done well, they don't try as hard because they've done well. You have to always you have to keep pushing them and pushing them and pushing them. Sometimes too far. Well, he doesn't believe that there's too far, but
yeah. And at the end of the day, I mean, one of the big things that's amazing about this movie to me, and like I need some time to process this, but one of the things that's amazing about this movie to me is you get to the end, and this is an antagonistic relationship between two people that completely get and agree with each other, but are challenging each other so much that they don't fully realize it until the end.
Mm-hmm.
I think Simmons' character is past the point of paranoia.
Yeah. Well, and it's so weird because when you get a moment where you kind of see him where he's not the kind of raving guy, you get like a real human moment from him, and even at his most,
he still has that in him. He's forcing it all the time.
And even at his
he's
most
to his gun
sober,
so hard with this philosophy,
he still believes it entirely.
Yeah.
He's one. He's asked, "Is there a line?" And he says no.
And then I guess you're right with the idea that the movie kind of agrees with him at least to some degree because they're both vindicated by the end.
Yeah. But this movie could have been called Bleed for It. This is literally a movie where someone has to bleed for their art.
But it's not like there aren't consequences. It's not like the whole world coalesces to these people. Like,
it's not.
I don't get to the end and I'm like I want to go out and be just like this guy. I'm applauding him in a way at the end, and I also feel sorry for him in a way. You know, like he gets everything he ever wanted, but then he's given up so much I never would.
Yeah. No, I agree. No. There are numerous points in this where I'm like, I could never do this. Like I'm not that driven.
But then it's also inspiring at the same time.
Yeah.
I can't watch a movie like this and not want to immediately work harder.
Yep.
And be better and like it's. I had a hard time watching this and not think about times where I was unsure of myself and thinking like, buck up, Pilgrim. And
if only someone had screamed at you and told you how useless you were.
but I kept thinking about that afterwards, where I was like, it's a little bit of that my life can't be so bad kind of thing. But like everything that happens to this kid, he brings on himself.
Yeah. And one of the things I loved was that
it's all self-imposed, which is a thing that I to some degree can relate to.
Yeah. One of the things I loved is that there's a couple of contrivances that get this film running. And then J.K. Simmons calls him completely. He's like, "You didn't earn any of this.
Yeah.
You got this because of this, and you got this because of this, and that's why you're here right now." And I was like, "That's amazing."
And I kind of thought all along that's what was going on.
Did you?
Yeah, they because I thought it was too easy, and I thought this movie was probably too good for that.
But I didn't know if it would be that easy just to get the ball rolling, kind of a thing.
Yeah. I think what helps, and I've only seen this the one time, but I think part of the reason I thought that was because the movie pretty much opens with an audition he doesn't know is an audition.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that's what it was from the beginning.
Okay.
That he walks in and he listens to this kid because he keeps doing things that struck me as testing.
Mm-hmm.
And so
which was then at the end he basically says, yeah, all of this was testing.
And that also became really clear when he was being, too nice to kids that didn't seem to really deserve to be there. And I liked that the other two drummers were kind of like different sorts of opposites.
And I also love that neither of them were villainized.
The worldviews. No, they weren't.
It didn't go the normal movie route of like, this guy's a jerk and I deserve his place. They're not villainized,
but they didn't want it in the same way.
Yeah, they didn't want enough.
And one of them was kind of too much of a suck up and too much of a people pleaser. And the other one, I think, was trying too hard to be like Simmons.
Yeah.
And this kid doesn't want to impress this teacher. He wants to be the best you can be, and he knows that this that this teacher knows what that looks like.
And he specifically went to this school because it's the best music school in the entire country, and all of that. And he wants to be in this guy's class because this guy. What's interesting is we're told that he breeds excellence, right? Like everyone that goes through that class is amazing.
Yeah.
But then he later tells us
they never lose.
Yeah, but then he later tells us that he never had like a great success story.
See, but I love that because to anybody else looking in, he did.
But he didn't have anyone that is the greatest of all time.
He didn't have a Charlie Parker.
Mm.
And then there's kind of that question of, but in this day and age, would that person ever be appreciated like Charlie Parker was?
Yeah, well, especially doing jazz music.
And we talk about that.
Yeah.
He's like, this is why it's dying. And I love that this kid never thinks about that. He doesn't care.
Mm.
He wants to be great at this thing. And it doesn't matter if there's even an avenue for it.
Mm-hmm. You want to talk about the music? Because I don't have much to say because I'm not a music person. But
yeah. So I forget the name of this kid, the Fantastic Four kid.
I could.
It's just not coming to me right now.
Yeah.
But I would,
Miles Teller.
Thank you. But I would love to know how much of a drummer he was before he got this role. That looks hard.
It looks really, and I kept looking for shots where I'm like, well, a real drummer stepped in, and there's not many where I could be like, it's someone else's arm or like something like that. Like
too often, it's back off shots, and you see him really doing it. And he must have killed himself making this movie.
I mean, he looks in pain every time he touches the drums.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, I'm not driven enough to do what he looks in so much pain. His fingers are bleeding as he's playing. I'm like, I would have stopped. I wouldn't keep doing this.
Yeah. No. Obviously, the people making this movie, understand the kind of music he's playing. They understand not just the music and various types of jazz, and they talk about what jazz used to be versus the kind of watered down coffee shop stuff that people are listening to now, and they talk about the idea that there aren't greats in jazz anymore because it's just kind of elevator music now. And but I was almost more impressed because you expect the music in a thing like this to be good. I was kind of more impressed with all the details about practicing, about what being in a choir room and in a band room is like. And I've done some of that myself. I was in choirs for years and years and years, and there's just a bunch of the little details of specifically things that conductors go crazy about, just lose their minds over, or the things that I remember seeing conductors lose their minds over, and things like people forgetting their folders or leaving their folders somewhere, and stuff like that, and then obviously just all the jargon and the in the technical stuff is all up to spec, and they're not just making stuff up. They know what they're talking about.
So I do have a question that you might not know because we both only watched it once.
Yeah, sure.
Is he writing music that's nigh superhuman? Like when we see the three different drummers just keep rotating, trying to play the same piece, and none of them are nailing it. Is it near impossible to play this music?
No, I think the deal is I don't think the music is is like the most complicated thing in the universe. Like it's hard, but it's more about tempo and trying to get them to play it as fast as possible, and it's more him just constantly testing that kid. And that, of course, is the biggest thing that you'll see in a choir room or a band room like that, is people not being able to match precisely the conductor's tempo. He needs to be in complete control so that everyone is together. And obviously, it's most important that the drums are in tempo, because that's the foundation. That's the base for the piece, and so everything else is following the drums. And so you got to get that percussion right. And I did kind of wonder why he was so fixated on a drummer as opposed to any other instrument.
I had that question, but then the other student we hear about is like a trumpet player, and so I assumed that this was the one he was working with right now. I assumed that he
was the potential prodigy that he found.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I feel like if he played a different instrument, he would have been focused on him in that other instrument.
In a weird way, I expected both a more happy ending and a less happy ending, if that makes any sense at all. You know, I figured like maybe it would end with his, realizing that he's not going to be able to get what he wants, or that he actually, like you said, learns that balance, or learns to appreciate the other things in life, that like life's too short, or I thought maybe he would patch things up with the girl, especially when he calls her again. And when she said, like, I thought it was gonna get kind of romantic, like when he calls her back and invites her to the concert and she says she has a boyfriend. I expected her to be joking again, like she was at the beginning. That's Melissa Benoist. That's Supergirl. She's good. She doesn't get a lot to do.
No.
But I was kind of sad for her, but at the same time, I'm the more I thought about it, I think I'm with you. I don't think they were anything like right for each other.
No.
But then there's not gonna be someone like that for him, because the only person he's gonna be happy with is gonna be so driven also that she's not gonna have time for him either.
But I mean, I guess you can kind of maybe make that work. I don't know. Not exactly, but I'm sure he could find someone that, like, even if they only spend like a couple of days a year together, they're like there is someone.
Sure.
And it's probably not music. It's probably like an astrophysicist or something.
Some other thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, when you get to the end, he gets everything he ever wanted, and
but at what twisty cost?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I was mortified. This is, and especially
I was inspired and mortified at the same time
with the subject matter, because like obviously anything that you want to be this great at is going to be intense no matter what it is. And looking eyes in somebody that doesn't really appreciate music, they might wonder how in the world you could put that much time and effort to entertainment. You'll hear people think like that. But then,
and they talk about that a little bit at the dinner table.
Exactly, with his family.
Amazing.
I thought that was really important. Yeah. So you'll have people who won't appreciate it just because it's music or whatever, but also will think that it's the thing that they're working so hard at is something they're making that is for other people who are consuming it relaxing. And so, like, how could it be so intense? You don't go into a movie like this expecting to, I mean, like, you think about Russian ballet and stuff, right? Like, you don't expect to go into a movie like this thinking, or walking out going, that was the most intense thing I've ever seen. It's 24 intense, and it's about a guy who's drumming. Like, it's amazing.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's an incredible film. Everyone should go see it.
And it's also cool how little time it spans. Like, sometimes it feels almost like a one-room drama. It's not that. There are
There's a point where we skip ahead
scenes,
like 6 months.
So I guess I'm just thinking, like, there are big swaths where we're in one place for a long time.
And it must spend more time, because there's a point where we find out, like, we see him ask Melissa Benoist out, And then they've been
That's
dating
right.
for like a couple of months.
Yeah, that's true. I forgot about that.
Yeah. It's,
Well, and I
it's
guess
basically a school year.
I guess it has to be
Or somewhere within the school
over,
year.
or a semester.
Yeah.
I guess it has to be over a long enough period of time that they build that rapport, and he's been, you know, working with them for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, the car crash is crazy, and you called the car crash, but it's still really effective.
He's driving around at 80 miles per hour. I'm like, oh, he's gonna stop doing that. He's not paying attention to what's going on. He's playing with his phone. I was like, no, you're gonna. And then he gets hit, and I was like, oh god. And then it's the craziest scene ever. And then it's only the craziest scene ever because in any other movie that would be a crazy scene, but then when it gets to, where like it's not a tremendous moment. It's the beginning of the third act,
Yeah.
like or it's the end of the second act. It's the lowest you can be, and I was like, oh my god, like who does that? Like it's amazing.
Well, and getting hit is not the breaking point.
No,
It's, I'm gonna get up from a car crash.
I'm gonna
and
walk to.
I'm gonna go walk in there, and I'm gonna play this music, and he gets screwed by the conductor, and after a car crash attacks him.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
one of the drumsticks slips out of his hand because it's covered in blood because he just walked away from a car crash, and the conductor says you're done.
Yeah, and he can barely play.
Yeah, and he can barely play.
Well, he even lets him pick it up, and he goes apologizes to the audience.
Yeah. Did not. When he gets out of the car, I'm like, he's gonna go. He's gonna play amazing, right? Like he's gonna kill it. And then he didn't, and I did not see that coming.
Yeah, well, and what's crazy is I talk about this all the time. It's a story about a character who kind of refuses to change, and what's nuts is you'd think that would be the point where he kind of gets a dose of reality and realizes I've taken it too far, and no, that's the point for him in his head, for his character arc. That's the point where he almost breaks, and then continues on the same path he was on before.
Mm-hmm.
That I could not have imagined that's where that would go.
No, me either. Especially when we kind of had a couple of months, and he's just like working at like Jimmy John's or something.
Yeah.
The only thing
like the lowest point isn't the car crash; it's the fact that he let it get to him.
Yeah.
And like when he attacks the conductor, it's I've worked this hard, I've done all this. How dare you?
Yeah.
And then later, he comes to the realization that he needed all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that I can't decide if I'm supposed to just me for myself. Like, is this inspiring? Is this endearing? Or is this horrifying?
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of all of those things.
Yeah. No, I agree. And
I just feel like I'm in this guy's head the whole movie, and it kind of doesn't matter what I would do or what my morality is. Like I'm living
You're with the
him.
peas.
Yeah, I'm with the peas.
Yeah.
It wouldn't matter if I
completely.
disagree with it 100%. It's a brilliant film.
I agree.
And we don't run into a lot of this. And like again, I've heard people say this. I kind of agree. It's nigh perfect. I don't know what I would change about it.
The only thing that I like.
I'm not saying it is perfect.
No,
just
no.
right away, one viewing. I don't know what I would.
The
what I would
only
change
thing I
about
took
it.
pause at is when we jump to the summer, and the teacher asks him to come be in the band. He pulls his drums out like he hasn't drummed in a while, and I don't really buy that the character would stop drumming, but also then he goes and does his amazing show. That felt kind of
Well,
weird.
he worked that hard for that long.
Yeah, but then he didn't for, it seems like a couple of months.
Right, but it was for so long.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That might not have phased him that much, and a lot of that was it was about like how the negative reinforcement made him better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's a fascinating film.
So the other thing I want to talk about a little bit, and I want to apologize right away to Jeffrey Petrone because I'm not going to talk about this as long as he would probably like me to. Although I would say things like that, and then I talk forever.
Has Jeffrey seen Whiplash? He'd probably love Whiplash.
I imagine he has. I would be very surprised if he hadn't. But, guys, I watched...
It's right up ahead of them.
Is it? Oh, there it is. I watched the pilot for Legion and want to immediately watch it again before I talk about it. But I didn't get a chance to do that, so I'm going to talk about it briefly, and then hopefully in the not-too-distant future I can finish the rest of this. I'm itching to. I mean, I really enjoyed this pilot. So, we've heard great things about Legion. I started watching the pilot a while back, and then something happened, and I didn't finish it, and then I didn't get around to this while it was still a place where I could watch it. So Jeffrey was nice enough to send me this and then request it on Patreon. So so I sat down and watched it, and I was just absolutely riveted. So Legion is supposed to be the son of Professor Xavier, which is not given to us in the pilot. We don't know that, and it kind of doesn't matter. And I right away, and I really like that this feels very, very X-Men, but it stands apart, and it's so confident that it isn't leaning whatsoever on that mythology and that stuff at all. Like, I imagine there were people who might have tuned in and looked at this and didn't know that it was X-Men related, and then by the time they did, if they did,
well, and they're
like,
not
oh, cool,
it
it's X-Men
thing.
They're really not. I mean, it's got X in the O.
Yeah.
But they're really not. It's selling itself on its own merits, and I'm impressed that the advertising is as confident about the show as the show is. This does not feel like a thing that should go on broadcast television. Like, I realize that FX is different than, like, if it was on Fox, but this feels like a thing that would only happen on, like, a Netflix or an Amazon or something.
Well, and I keep hearing about this. I've heard nothing about Gifted.
Yeah, well, and I talked a little bit about it when it started.
I mean, since the initial drop.
Oh, so, yeah,
yeah,
sure.
I haven't heard anything. People kept talking about Legion, and even after it ended, people, like, for the whole rest of the year, like, I think season 2 starting up soon, I kept hearing people bring up Legion.
So, do you remember what I told you about the first time I saw Heroes?
No.
I had the same thing with this that I did the first time I saw Heroes, which is the pilot for this show feels like a show that has been on for 5 years.
Oh, yes, yes. Well, just Heroes' whole first season feels like one of the most confident first seasons I've ever seen.
Yeah. This is something special. I've really never seen anything quite like this, because it's incredibly like stylistically filmed, and the soundtrack is like choice of popular music and stuff is unusual and not what you would expect in a scene, and just like everything about it is counterintuitive but really artistic and lovely and twisted all at the same time. This show is shocking, it is horrifying, and it is I'll use that word again, lovely. I had flashes of Pushing Daisies in this, which is weird. It's like Pushing Daisies if it was about a guy who is in a mental institution and being like controlled by the government. So the thing I think that's most impressive about at least this pilot with Legion is I trust it the whole time, and I have no idea what's going on. And that is such a cool feeling. It's constantly asking you to second-guess everything, and you're doing that all the way through. And what it'll do is it has, like, if I just straight up described this without telling you I liked it, you'd think I was criticizing it. I can say things like, scenes do not naturally follow other scenes. Where something will happen and you'll have, like, a cliffhanger over a commercial. And your David, your main character, I think his name is David, will be in the, like, horrible dire straits. And you don't know how he's going to get out of it. And then you get to the next scene and he's in some other place, and he's just fine, and it's just business as usual, and you're like, what in the world is going on? And I never know who's real, I never know who's actually there, I never know who's maybe a figment of his imagination.
Does he have multiple because that's his thing, right? He has a bunch of different personalities.
Yeah, I don't think it's made entirely clear what exactly that is, initially, because it doesn't want you to know too much about anything, because you're supposed to be in his head, and he's not allowed to know anything. So about halfway through, and I'll spoil this because it's part of kind of the premise of the show.
That's the pilot.
You get halfway through the pilot, and they peel back, and you find out that he's not actually crazy. He's made to think he is, so he won't know that he's a mutant and how powerful he is. And that immediately gives you something to latch onto. I think that has to happen, but I think you have to be in his head as long as you are until you get there so that you'll really appreciate how he feels about everything. I think that would have been a huge mistake to open with. Mm-hmm. I need to be with him and in his world and wonder if, like, this girl that he's that he's starting to date at the mental institution is actually a real person or not. I won't give that away, but it's great. And other characters were just like like, there's one character who seems to be a figment of his imagination, and then you see that guy apart from him, and you're like, I don't understand that. What is going on right now? And but you also continue to question his sanity, even though you know that he at least wasn't insane in the first place, because all this stuff that's happening to him could make you go crazy, right? And one thing I'm curious about that I'm hoping will become clearer as it goes along, and I've heard from people that have watched more of the show that it gets really interesting in trying to connect it to any other X-Men mythology, where it's like it kind of fits with the movies, and it kind of, and like I don't know what all that is yet because I haven't gotten to it, but like right now I'm not even thinking about that stuff, and I don't find myself wishing, like, thinking I'm looking at B-list characters and wishing that I was looking at like the main characters that I actually care about. I don't even just watching this pilot know that this is Professor X's kid, but I don't immediately go like, man, I sure wish he was here. There is talk that he might be. And have I told you about that?
Yeah,
and
Patrick Stewart is in
big deal.
negotiations.
Yeah, because apparently he and this actor are friends and have been in something together, and I forget what. But it sounds like there's actually negotiations, and that could end up happening. And but that will probably just be icing on the cake if it stays as good as it seems like at the beginning. But yeah, one thing that I was not sure about is whether people in this world at large know about mutants and are used to mutants. I feel like they must, but then I wonder why he wouldn't wonder if he was a mutant. It's almost like to him the mutant, the reality of mutants seems to not be a concept, but it must be, because when he finally deals with mutants with different superpowers, and when we get to the mutants toward the end, where we're building our supporting cast and we have kind of an underground, it's spectacular. I mean, it's big screen worthy. You'd think that a show like this that's all about the psychology of this character would mostly just be dialogue driven, and you'd have some, cool, creepy, trippy stuff that happens on the screen, and you have that, of course, and there's a whole lot of wonderful, weird, vivid imagery and stuff, and a lot of symbols that I really want to start reading, but I haven't seen enough of the show yet to know what they mean. There's this creepy, like, doll thing he keeps seeing, or is it a guy? I don't even know. That it means something. I don't know what it means. It means something, and but when they actually get to the big kind of fight choreography stuff, it's fantastic, and I didn't expect it to go there. And I don't know, man, it's it feels like a movie, and it's getting so much done in that first episode, and it's only 8, so I'm excited because I know it's probably not going to get boring. It's probably not going to be really padded, but that's an experience, man.
I will have to try it.
And a thing that I didn't care about just based on initial premise when it first came out, but man, the guy running this, like, just knows how to make a TV show. It's crazy. It's quite brilliant. So I'm excited to eventually talk about this in more of an articulate way, because I haven't watched any more of it yet, and I will probably rewatch the pilot before I watch more of it.
Cool.
Just because I'm sure a lot of stuff, now that I know some of where it's going, I will, like, some of the symbols and things I imagine I'll pick up more on a second viewing. Yeah, no, absolutely. And like I said a minute ago, some of the best nonlinear storytelling I've looked at. So yeah. Anyway, so
Cool.
that was absolutely fantastic. So we only did 2 pieces for You Made Me Watch today because we had all this Power Ranger stuff that we looked at. I was going to say that we had to look at. We went a little overboard. We maybe didn't have to do as much as we did with Primetime Crisis.
Well, it just kept being like, well, is that enough? Okay, well, we'll do this thing too. Well, what if we do that too?
We got in the mood for it.
Yeah,
you know? So it was worth it. It was a lot of fun, I think. But next time we're gonna do a lot more You Made Me Watch. We're gonna tackle at least 4, if not 5 things, probably. At least me, and we'll try to get Eric in on at least a couple things. But so if you have requested something with donation and you haven't seen it yet, don't worry. I've got it in the queue, and we're going to get to a lot more of those next time. If you'd like to donate to support the channel and have us review something, you can go to the email address in the description. Send me an email. Let me know what it is you'd like me to talk about. I will approve it, and most things get approved as long as they're not impossible to get or pornographic in nature. And we'll talk about a movie, we'll talk about the first episode, and usually the next episode in a TV show. We'll sample a video game, we'll sample comics, and You Made Me Watch can also be You Made Me Read, or You Made Me Play.
We just can't come up with a better title.
We just can't come up with a better title. So that's what we're calling it right now, and all those things will wind
up.
up.
You Made Me Ellipses.
Something rather. And anyway, but you can send me an email and let me know what you'd like me to talk about, and then you can, and then I'll send you information about how to make the donation happen. If you want to do that on a regular basis, you can go to patreon.com/Geekvolution and donate at the $20 tier. And that's going to be it for You Made Me Watch.